Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Epic Cup playoff. We just saw um, Encore win 2-0 versus the Trying Dutchman. Josh is still joining me. Welcome back.
Yeah, hello. And that's going to be a matchup which has been called the most important one, has been called the final by Aviator, one of the resident launch casters, who has been putting some effort into looking at Epic Cup games this season. All Exterminators versus Hands Up, another two of the Division 4 teams. First place versus third place of
hmm
the Division 4. And yeah, this is going to be a matchup.
Yeah, I'm very excited for this one because it's been hyped up by other people, right? So I'll have some expectations and I hope to see some cool stuff. Um, so, yeah, as you said, they are the third team in Division 4 that would be All Exterminators and HandsUp won the normal season. And All Exterminators ended first in Group D, and then HandsUp were second, tied at 6 points. They lost on map score in Group A. So it's going to be a spicy matchup here for sure.
Oof.
Um,
You always hated losing. You still got through on those tie breaks, but unfortunately you have lost your first place, which does mean that you will be put against one of those stronger teams. And
mhm.
you always hate it when you see two great teams in the quarterfinal because that does mean that one of them will not get to go through. And this series is only 3 games, unlike 5 in the finals, which does mean that one of those teams will be going home after 2 or 3 games. That is a lot of pressure on either of the sides, and who weren't probably expecting to meet one of the favorites in the first round.
Mhm. Yeah, very true, very true. Like it is always unfortunate, as you say, when two really good teams end up early in the bracket, but that's how it goes sometimes. It's the part of the competition. Um, Bragging rights is on the line as well as some trophies, so that's pretty damn cool.
Highest quality plastic.
Oh yes,
This
some
is
top tier plastic
so
indeed.
so great. Out of all of the plastic, out of all the highest quality plastic launch trophies that I have received, this one is definitely the highest quality plastic from launch that I have received. Um, yeah, the teams are already starting to draft some maps. All Exterminator have taken the map pick out of the coin flip, and they are starting by banning Infernal Shrines. Broxis is going to be the answer from Hands Up.
All right. Um, so yeah, while we get those map bans and picks sorted out, I'm just gonna let you all know that as Josh just said, we have still Johnny Sins Butt Buddies versus Jaina the Frost Mage ongoing on Channel 1, casted by Samu and Aviator. Um, Coming up next for them is going to be Team Super Kulaks versus Semi Croustillant, which I really cannot pronounce, but they're like, damn it, I don't even remember what the thing is called, but it's a crustacean and a croissant. So there's some sort of hybrid thing going on there, which
I'm actually quite interested because Aviator has named Johnny Sins Bad Buddies his third his third favorite to win it all, besides the 2 teams that we are casting in this match. And I'm surprised that he's selling Team Super Coolx that low. They actually are tied for first in Division 4 with Hands Up achieving the similar score, I believe. The tiebreaker in this case was not needed because both teams are in Pool 1, but there could potentially be some grudge matches on in the place. And
yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
might be the dark horse coming into this tournament for sure.
Yeah, it could very well be. Um, well, you keep talking about these teams while I fix something I just noticed because there's some unfortunate
Yes,
leftovers in my
sure. I
overlays.
I know absolutely nothing about the Epic Cup, but just based on the um aesthetics of both of the teams provided, Hands Up have a very thought out aesthetic approach with their team description being hands up and their team logo being the hands up Twitch TV emoji, which is a little bit overwhelming. Hammers the same exact message and does get the message across very well, don't get me wrong. For all exterminators, we do have a very interesting all cyborg thing, and it does tie in quite well, but I'm not quite sure about the idea of adding the name in the logo because it always suffers from it being sorry.
Oh, the transparency where you can't actually see the text because of our background.
No, it always suffers when you try to make it small, and
Oh, yes, true.
compression issues are a big part of it. I think the logo of all exterminators will definitely be improved if you just keep the cyborg. And they definitely do lose some points on the fact of not having a team description.
Well, that aside, they did pretty well in the normal season. So I know that Owl Exterminators has previously often barely missed playoffs. That's happened to them many times in their previous seasons. So I have a feeling they're like hungry to go for a win here and go as far as they possibly can. Um, I know that my team was sometimes responsible for bumping them out, which feels a bit bad, but what can you do, right? We were playing to get
Gotta do what
ourselves
you
in,
gotta
so
do, right?
yeah, we were
And
playing for our
that
own
was the
survival.
Spider Queen going to be our third map ban, followed up by Sky Temple being our last ban. Actually, someone called Sky Temple as his favorite map to cast, which I can see the reasoning behind, but I just can't get to cast a map of Sky Temple because it's being banned or ignored every single time. And remember how we wanted to cast Dragonshire? That's going to be the map pick for game number 1.
Nice. Okay, that makes me excited. I'm curious to see what they will put out there. If I recall, Owl Exterminators love themselves some Malthael, but I don't actually see him in their hero picks, so maybe I'm just.
Well, all exterminators actually have a very cheeky garage because he has been played, I think, 4 times or 6 times with 5 victories on him, but he has been banned against them 14 times. So that's not exactly a stat that you will see trying to scout out against the team unless you look at it differently or unless you watch the casts, for which a good garage player is usually very, very apparent.
Yeah, playing into a good garage is really frustrating, and it can be so hard to. It's just so difficult to move around on the battlefield, and like if you get like thrown outside of a bush you didn't expect the garage to be in, you're just gonna die. And there's not that many tanks that can do that to you. So it's a very strong tank for sure. Suffers from percentage damage issues, but even with the new Tychus, like just straight up buffed all across the board, no one seems to enjoy him. Greymane is there for the Curse Bullet. You have some other choices as well, except for like the Malta, for example. But yeah, we'll see what they end up with here on the side of both teams.
I mean, judging by the way that this dynamic has been going with all exterminators and garage, I don't think they will end up with the garage because it's just gonna get banned away, which is perfectly understandable, right?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, we also have a bit of an interesting Sylvanas focus coming out from the teams. Hands up, both like to pick Sylvanas with 9 picks and ban her out with 8. A lot of map pressure, which is an interesting thing because in the Rare Cup we have a much more focused dive meta. We have a much more focused kill people meta
Mm-hmm.
instead of trying to get map objectives, which sometimes works against us, but for the teams that got to the playoffs, they got there by playing the kill people
Yeah,
meta very well, which
exactly.
is why Sylvanas is not exactly prevalent in the Rare Cup, but it has been brought up a bunch in the Epic Cup, and I'm quite interested to see how this works out.
Yeah, the Sylvanas value you can just get by nibbling down buildings. I talked to this with Samu and Cost yesterday. Just you're just able to like, if you have positive map pressure, you just go into a lane, you like kill half a tower. You use Sylvanas straight, you did some damage, and then you leave. And over time, that will get you a lot of value. Like if your DK has to go through a wall in a fort or just a fort, that's a big difference. And it's just like the time
It's
you spend, it will gain you a lot later.
it is a very small difference, but it goes a very long way, I guess, is a
Yes.
way to think about it. Also, you don't get Dragon Knight on Dragon Shires that often, the higher you go, because in lower divisions, it's usually an offlaner plays on the island against the other offlaner, and the teams that has the better offlaner either wins the map or their foreman gets stomped and they lose. And in higher divisions, it is more of an all-out brawl. I remember casting a Mythic Championship game on Dragonshire where the first dragon has been taken 12 minutes into the game because until then the teams were just all-out brawling all across the map.
Yeah.
And this is such an interesting thing to watch and such an interesting thing to cast, especially with a co-caster, because that way you can have a hope of catching everything that's happening on the map.
Yeah, it's
But
really
I
true.
definitely do not pity. I definitely pity you a lot because you do have to observe this and catch most of those kills on the camera
It's
somehow.
fine. It's fine. You just check the offlane once in a while. You can just like give a glance at their health pools, and then you just okay, that seems about right. You check the minimap, like that's kind of the quick look you have to do, and then if it like ooh this is spicy, then you go up there, right? So
Hmm.
something you should be doing in your normal games as well. Like how is your offlane doing? It is more important than it seems. You talk about the island, but the island is connected by a lot of bridges to a lot of places on the map, and if you can like leave and strand your opponent behind, that is very, very powerful. So we'll see what this game has to offer
I
here.
would be
Going.
honest, my win rate would have improved a lot if those bridges were burned, because unfortunately we do not exactly have that kind of offlaner synergy with the foreman to allow for a lot of rotations, which is how Dragonshire and Braxis Holdout, another big map with a solo lane emphasis, are defined in higher divisions. So usually it ends up being a 1v2 because I am so good at offlane.
Well,
Humble brag.
hopefully then your team will win a 4v3. So, it's all good.
And yeah, let's see. We do have hands up with the first ban. A lot
Yeah.
of things that can be taken out. Johanna Rhaegar, etc. All things banned out against hands up, but they really like banning out Zul, another hero with a lot of
Yeah.
soak, another offlane hero, a good offlane hero at that. But it's going to be the Rexor because offlane maps, Rexor, you can control the point, you can soak wave at the same time, providing an option for the opposing solo laners that he
Yeah.
can't exactly
And
take well.
interestingly enough, they have played him 4 times and they won 4 times. So that makes a lot of sense for this map. I would also never give them Cassia. They have 8 games and 8 wins. So, there's a lot of high win rate heroes here, but like the undefeated ones stick out to me. So
Yeah,
usually,
that is actually a good point because all of the teams that get to the playoffs are very, very good. They had to take top 8 in their division and then take at least the second place in their group. So the further you go alongside the championship, the more you see heroes have high win rates. But the difference between a hero with a high win rate and the hero that is undefeated is a very big difference
yeah.
sometimes. So have to err on the side of the caution. Junkrat and Johanna being banned out on the left, Zul taken away on the right, and that's a first pick Cassie. You don't need to ban it if you can pick it away.
We smart. Yeah, good pickup overall as well. Just solid damage dealer. Um, she will kind of be your. She's gonna be in the bottom lane, presumably, right? So you kind of know what you're up against there, and maybe you can shape your draft a bit now. for our Exterminators, but still, that's a really good pick. You're gonna go for the Tassadar and Rhaegar together here. So from what I understand, Cassia eats Tassadar for lunch because he's quite immobile. Anytime you just stand still, you get a Q, and then you get fended, and you kind of die. So
And that's why you pick up the Bloodlust, so the Duster is able to run away. And or
mm,
go brrrr with Archon on top of the Cassia and just try to outdamage her. Also, to note, Cassia can do a lot of single target pickoffs with the Valkyrie, and also to note, Cassadar was actually a very important strategy mid-season before it got found out and banned out by everyone. For example, Just Cause have got a lot of success with that combination. You find the target, you Valkyrie it in, you wall it off, that's a guaranteed kill.
yeah,
You find the target, you engage on it, you wall it off, that's a guaranteed kill, and it's just very easy to find those kills. Also coming out for hands up, we do have the Falstad and the Lucio. The Falstad is a global, which is very, very nice for such a map as Dragonshire, such
yeah.
an offlane focused map.
I expect him to be mostly like in the mid lane. Like he's the mid lane soaker. You can go top, you can go bottom. It's gonna be an Orphea and Garrosh together. You mentioned him as a potential risk. May is
And
opted
that's
for
a
as the other side.
May. Will we see a Deathwing?
He would have to top lane. That doesn't seem great.
You put the Falstad in the top lane and he has a global, which does mean that he can gank the 4-man. You will probably concede the top altar, but do you need the top altar when you can just sit on the bot altar and just win the fights down bot? And instead, it's going to be the Irel, a very solid offlane choice, although every time I try to pick up the Irel, I feel like I'm doing nothing.
Yeah, I've had the same feeling, but with enough games, she now feels quite good. So I like it as a pick here. You can you can wave clear quite well. You have like the mobility across the wall, which is quite necessary, I would say. There's going to be a Malthael on the other side now, as the choice from Alex Terminators. This matchup, mm, I don't know actually. If Irel fights Malthael on the point, Malthael loses super duper hard, and he can't actually escape well. So if you're in the wave, then Malthael is gonna do fine, but otherwise, like I think that's probably Irel favored overall. We'll see what that offlane island will look like. The four
Finally,
man's pretty strong.
uh, Dragonshire, as it can be apparent that the offlane matchup matters a lot on the surface, when you go deeper, you just find out that it does matter still because it does define the team's strategy. But which offlaner is better will not exactly determine how the offlane will go because Dragonshire on high levels is less about the offlane matchup and more about the interaction between the offlaner and the main team. And in that, I believe the Malthael has a little bit of an advantage over Irel just because he can double soak and can double soak a lot earlier. He also can take camps by himself, which is an option that I don't see often because that requires you to take a lot of time away from the lane. But taking a cheeky camp at level 3 might be exactly the difference.
Yeah. So a lot of us focus on the offlane here. We're gonna go into the game and see very little of it probably, if I'm gonna be honest. But here we have them. It's gonna be in the red on the right as we spawn in. It's HandsUp with the Caesar86 on the Lucio. Blah 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 playing Falstad. We have Mitsor playing Irel. Navariel is on the Cassia, and Squeaky is on May.
And on the left, in blue, we have all Exterminators trying to win the Epic Cup to get closer to their goal of deleting Tiny Owl. We do have Deadly Kitten on Gersh, Philip playing the Rhaegar, Ashen Dry on the Orphea, No Scope Ninja, not playing a Ninja, playing a Tester instead, and Jigoku in the offlane as a Malthael. We do have a lag issue into a pause, and 3 to 3 is already called, which does mean that we are on our merry way.
Yeah. Can't have a cast without any technical difficulties, right? It makes me nervous because now, okay, phew, it's done, and then you can kind of move along.
Whew.
When it
You
comes,
can appreciate that calm before the storm that Dragonshire games usually erupt into.
Yeah,
We do see that one of the sides prefer to go a little bit focused on the mid lane. The all exterminators go in 5 mid, while the right side, hands up, preferring to split up a little bit, get some early soak and potentially a roll from there.
yeah. I think they just don't want to deal with this Garrosh early. Getting flipped into that team with the Tassador Frostwall, for example, is pretty sketchy. So they just don't want to deal with that. They want to have someone bottom. They have a damage dealer on each lane, so they can pick up the soak. And we're now just waiting for the. Hey, we have Aviator here sneaking in from in between two games, I'm sure, as we have this draft lined up for you on Dragonshire. It's all Exterminators versus HandsUp, game one.
And we have just been unpaused.
Yes,
Let's see how this will
exactly.
go. The garage is scary. The garage has a throw upgrade just so you can follow up from every point. When you throw, you have a lot of follow up to the throw as well. The Orphea damage is there. The Tester damage is there. Unfortunately, you don't have any roots or stunts to follow up on the CC chain, but the damage follow up is definitely gonna be huge for the side of our Exterminators.
Yeah.
And here comes the first throw. Caesar 86 being the target and being the first blood. The last auto attack, taking a lot of time to travel to Lucio, but still ends up in a kill.
Yep. Both offlaners just immediately going into mid here to help out, get some extra value done. It's gonna be a Falstad mid mostly, and an early camp here for all extenders. Early double camp even with Tassadar in the bottom, and a 3-man here on the Bruiser. On the other side, there's no camp going on whatsoever. It's just some soak. Now the 4-man here going onto the siege camp. Irova's gonna be pushed in.
A very, very early camp, especially a very, very early hard camp, can throw off the offlane a lot potentially because the enemy offlaner, I don't think that Irel has too much camp clear on level 1, which does mean that someone else needs to go there, especially with the Irel double soaking. You do force the enemy's team attention away from the bot lane, which does mean that you can try to go for some place down there.
Yeah, they send the Falstad top to help out, as you mentioned. And now they have top control, so bottom lane here is safe to move away. They want to temporarily convert it to their side. Lucio doing Lucio things there. And one altar each, as it usually ends up being on this map. And now Falstad flying into mid, looking for something on the meltdown here. But he is quite jukey, going for on a pale horse and die alone there.
I actually like how all Exterminators plays this map because you can just play it as a rare cup style offlaner on an island and then the 4-man rotates. Or you can play it like Towers of Doom with the offlaner double soaking and the team just sitting on the bot lane, taking those contested bruiser camps and doing a lot of damage. The throw comes out on Caesar once again, but once again there is not enough crowd control to secure him down. Unfortunately, this time around the damage will also not be enough.
Yeah, very close there on the kill. Lucio needs to be a bit careful about this. He has been caught out twice now and barely escaped with life. It's a very dangerous duel they're doing here, the Lucio and the Garrosh. Whoever gets... It's basically Lucio playing with fire this whole time. Double stun though, nice boo.
And the follow-up on Novariel, Cassia can be blown up quite easily if you can lock her down, because the passive does provide a lot of armor. If you know how to lock her down, you will get rid of all of that, and the health bar is not exactly the highest on the hero.
Yeah, they're struggling to clear this camp here. They eventually do it, but there's a lot of pressure here in the bot line, and with Falstad kind of helping out in top, they are stuck now, just sitting back here. They probably expected this though, to be fair, so I wouldn't be too nervous about it. Falstad now joining in. Irel on a very aggressive pathing to deny the XP in top lane, very nice.
Yeah, and strategy of all Exterminator working off quite well for them, because wait a second, that's a tester that, and the fight is continuing in the bot lane with all Exterminators on very much the back foot as HandsUp strike back, take up 2 kills while I was looking at the offlane looking for some actions there. Classic mistake. classic mistake.
Yeah, it happens, it happens. And actually, they're gonna get the first DK here with those 2 kills in bot lane. Nice play here from HandsUp as they confirm their first Dragon Knight of the game. 4 minutes in. Pretty early overall, but great use of the global there. Also very nice engage by Lucio, finding the Tassero there who wanted to make some play happen, but then gets booped into the team, and Lucio was unable to be punished there. It's really difficult to hit the Lucio with what they have. Orphea isn't exactly an auto attacker. She has some chunky autos, but it's not in the same way like a Vala would, for example. So Lucio is like medium threatened. Taunt is gonna kill him, realistically speaking, right? But we're not there quite yet.
And this fight was a perfect example of the caster's curse, just as I was about to praise Al Exterminator for their House of Doom strategy on Dragon Shire. We do see the rotation of Falsehood down bot result in a very explosive game, putting HandsUp in the lead, putting HandsUp in position to take the objective, giving them their own DK, because that the Kitten also can stand for it. And the Dragon Knight will get traded for a wall and a half, which is quite solid for the first Dragon Knight, especially for the one taken that early in the game.
Yeah, very much so. Irel is doing fine keeping up with the double soaking, honestly. I think as long as you don't have to fight the Malthael, you're just content to like trade lanes, then you're gonna be just fine doing that on Irel. Can be a mana intensive, but you can manage that pretty well. And whenever she hasn't been able to go there, Falstad is in the middle, so I want to commend them for their understanding of what the macro game is going to look like here.
Yep. And now the strategy of Al Exterminator will drop a little bit off, because now Irel actually gets the ways of double soaking. She can actually do it by herself, and even when she has those struggles, for example with the camp, there's always a falsehood, there's always a global which can move up and help. Unfortunately for all exterminators that don't exactly have it, and sometimes trying to 5-stack, 4-stack in the bot lane is just not enough to cut it.
Yeah, Al Exterminators just instantly picks up this Bruiser camp. They knew it was coming up. They had like 9 seconds left, and the whole team is just there to help it out. Garrosh holds mid lane XP, and they have been doing a good job on the camps overall, but Falstad's presence in top lane is kind of making Malthael have to play very far back, and off lane is still very even. Bottom lane looks basically the same as well, so a very close game so far, moving into the mid game here with both teams on their heroics.
With the ultimates, we do have a little bit more lockdown on the side of Al Exterminators with the Taunt, with the Crushing Jaws. We also have the Bloodlust and the Archon.
Oh, Lucio on the bot lane though.
And on Caesar, who will just trade away and even will not be walled off. The Ice Wall comes out, the Valkyrie is mistimed, and the save comes out on No Scope Ninja. The Tester will not become the meat for the Amazon this time around.
Yeah, I did not expect Lucio to just escape that easily, but there's realistically no other CC outside of the Garrosh, so they tried to use a wall there, but Lucio just said, okay, I can ride this wall, it's fine, I get some armor, and he just kind of...
There were Crushing Jaws, but the Crushing Jaws came out a little bit too late because the initial delay is there, and there comes the taunt, there comes the blow.
Yeah.
That's how you kill the Lucio. You either throw him in a place where there are no walls, and therefore he doesn't get an opportunity to trade away from the wall to get out of your follow-up, or doesn't get the wall right away. Or you just taunt him out, you just blow him up, and Lucio will not be able to do anything to that.
Yeah, like I said, it's a deadly dance there in that matchup. Mei doesn't really have the option to help out as much. Big fight in the top lane though. They're gonna go for the Malthael here. It's gonna go quite low, and with the jump, mid-sword kills him off. But there's a trade here from Ashandra on Orphea, and actually seems to be winning this fight with a lot of auto attack damage
The
coming
Ardent
out.
Defender coming out, however, regaining a lot of HP to the Irel, and Caesar 86 is there to turn it for the better. The Ultra stays with the red side, but there is a big rotation from the side of HandsUp. Unfortunately, Al Exterminator is not exactly in the position to force anything in return.
Yeah. So game still teeters back and forth and back and forth. Rhaegar there on a camp for Out Exterminators. And on the other side, HandsUp are going to be picking up their own as well. They seem to be... Yeah, they're going to do it eventually. It's fine. Don't worry about it. Malta aggressively positioning here onto the shrine. We have an Orphea here as well, so Irel not too keen on having to stay here. Fossilizing once again.
Slide in. We do have the last rights, which were not pressed in the last fight, but can be a very nice way to secure a kill on the Falstad or the Irel if they get a little bit too aggressive. The entirety of all Exterminators will be up there to help, but the Ultra top is traded by the Ultra bottom by Novaria.
Oh, that's an early trade there from May in mid lane.
The jump, the Crushing Jaw Squeaky will not stay alive and will, however, Ice Wall Gersh as a return attack. Will not quite work because there is no follow-up, but...
Yeah, now suddenly it becomes very difficult to show everything on the map here, so all Exterminators converting bottom to their favor again to have this pressure off. The full rotation of 5 man to try to help this initial gank and then led to the Mei dying in mid, while HandsUp just kind of had a 3-1-1 going on there, still soaking, still just happy to be out on the map.
And that's why you ban out the Garrosh, right? You get the pick on a Mei out of nowhere. Mei, not exactly the squishiest character in the game, has quite a bit of HP, has the trait to help, but the lockdown chain from all Exterminators was...
Oh, Lucio in trouble again. Misses the taunt, jukes them most of the team here. Nice force wall, and no scope ninja on jump has used the Archon. May goes in, uses the wall again.
To keep the gust to save there will be enough for HandsUp to stay safe. Caesar 86 saved once again by his trade, the ability to jump away from a wall, more importantly a quick burst of movement into one direction, which does throw off both the Orphea and the Tesser, two carries which rely on their opponents to stand in.
Yeah, I also want to really say that HandsUp, when Lucy was at risk, they instantly went for the Tassadar and almost killed him off, right? They forced a cooldown in Archon, which is a really long one, and they have the map control they need, so Irel takes top, converts it back just in time, as they have their mid laners stand there playing point guard, so game still is super duper even. I'm very impressed by what they're doing so far. I like the global usage out of HandsUp so far, and Deadly Kitten versus Caesar. It's a very interesting matchup coming in there with the Lucio playing on a knife's edge.
I find it interesting how bloodless this game has been as well. We have seen a lot of action around the game, but so far it's only 4-3 in kills and not a lot done in terms of structures as well. Malthael trying to find something on the Irel, but the Irel will be full health and will just move out.
Yeah, Ice well spent in the bottom lane as well there from Squeaky trying to find an engage. They have been using their cooldowns now to like... They're angling for something. They know they want to try to get a pick and make the map go in their favor, because a kill at this point realistically should give you the DK. If you can't do that, you're kind of in trouble. Or Novaria will get slowed down amazingly by the no force wall, barely doesn't connect, and in mid lane there, Malthael falls, unfortunately off camera, as one gank was paired with another, and the team in red comes out on top.
And yes, HandsUp finally finds their engage. Malthael rotating down mid because he was double soaking the entire game. You kinda know the pattern in which he will move between those lanes. Irel just following him up, but this time around the Malthael is met by the entirety of HandsUp finding that kill and using the snowball from the kill to set up and take the second Dragon Knight of the game.
Yeah, and like it's almost as I know what I'm talking about. The one kill does mean that HandsUp here are able to pick up the DK. They're confirming mid fort. They're probably gonna be able to kill off bottom fort here as well. So now catapult pressure coming their way.
Walls traded in the previous Dragon Knight. This time those walls are converted into a fort, and that's a small change that does a big difference. Usually you aren't able to get past the wall and take down the structure itself with the first objective. But when you take down the wall and you take down several walls, you are able to take several structures later on just because it is so much easier to pressure your opponent away without that full standing.
Yeah, the offlaner still doing the soaking thing here. Malta now rotating down. I'm curious to see what Irel will be doing. She's gonna push out mid lane. And without her team is moving, I expect her to go top lane again. Yeah, that is the case. They're not gonna push their luck anymore. They're closer to 20. They have a level lead. And I'm actually gonna check XP here. And it is minion XP. Counteracted some by mercenary XP, honestly. That powers HandsUp ahead here in this very tight game. 19 to 19, 20 very shortly here for the team in red. And out Exterminators just kind of freezing their lanes there. They don't want to be out on the map. They may have to give up one or more of these camps, but that's probably fine. Losing top fort is not going to do anything for your late game plan anyway. So it's just kind of weighing and weighing and weighing here until the next DK is going to be spawning.
It's actually interesting way to contrast this. We see, we saw in the second game of Encore versus the Trine Dutchman almost the exact thing, but the main difference here is that the Trine Dutchman were stuffed out of options by Encore. In this case, all Exterminators are deciding to play safe and decide to bunch up, sit in the base, because pushing out does provide your enemies with an opportunity to catch you. And sitting back, just taking your time, finding that level 20, and with that you can potentially take a fight, you can potentially fight on those equal talents and get the game back around.
Yeah, it's not a sexy play, it's not a fun play, right? Because you're actively just sitting around waiting, but it is the correct play in some cases, and I like the patience shown here for all Exterminators. They're gonna get their 20, they're gonna be able to fight for some of this that's coming up. They have a double bruiser camp fight coming their way, so Malta probably needs to deal with that, which also means then that HandsUp are now free to do whatever they want in bottom lane, because he has to deal with this, otherwise top keep is likely to fall.
We do have the Bloodlust upgrade, we do see the level 20 upgrade on Archon as well.
Oh, they get the Ice Wall here onto Garrosh bot lane.
And that will be the follow-up. The Valkyrie will miss because of Indomitable, and that's why you pick that level 4 talent, Deadly Kitten, walking out of what would have been a sure kill on everyone else on his team.
Yeah, nice use of the Unstoppable there. In the same way that it's easy to follow up the Ice Wall, it's also easy for him to know that follow-up is coming, so Garrosh here survives a very sketchy position, but again though, this move from HandsUp, it means that they can send a real top. All Exterminators has to deal with bot lane, and they now are kind of forced to go out here on bottom point, which they might not want to.
And remember how we praised all Exterminators for just taking it safe, sitting back in base. Unfortunately, that does allow even more initiative to go into the hands of HandsUp. And yes, you do get to safely farm until level 20, but when you get to that level 20, you are way behind on the map, and you need to find ways to break away. You need to find ways to break up.
Gonna go in here, they're looking for Tassadar. Malta jukes away onto the Mei. Crushing Yacht doesn't do very much here. Chandrai on the Orphea, quite low.
Irel taking all of the attention away from the rest of HandsUp. They engage. There's the Bloodlust coming out. Deadly Kitten will fall quite low, but the W to get HP back. Ardent Defender to regain a lot of HP on the Irel. The wall comes out on the Varial. The Cassia goes low, but will stay alive. And we see that the bot Ultra is almost kept the cheeky attempt the flight back to the mid lane from the Falstad. It will all be in vain because all Exterminator see it and they shut it down.
Yeah.
Very nice way to break it open. No kills so far, but the momentum is back in balance, I think.
Yes, absolutely. But there's still a global on the side of Encore here. HandsUp, and another force wall going in onto the Tesla. It's going to go quite low here. Nice poop in, and down he goes. A lot of damage here. The burst not enough for Rigger to heal. Lost rights.
But that will not be the follow-up on anything. The last rights will not kill the Mei because she gets just enough HP. The taunt coming out on two people there, but HandsUp got their pick to start the fight, and HandsUp will not put their hands down. Orphea dead. Garrosh dead. All Exterminators back down. We do have the Dragon Knight, and that will go into one of those keeps, taking it down, potentially even the core.
Yeah, Maltal tries his best to get her on time, but it's not gonna make it. They dismounted from the minion wave, those pesky traitors. He's unable to get there on time, and as you say, DK is gonna be running here onto the bot lane into core. They have a full team available. Bloodlust is back. Maybe some sort of defense can be mounted here, but it's gonna be a really scary one. Need to deal a lot of damage. The stun onto Israel here from the core. Jigoku
And
dealing
I
his
think the
best.
watch go on Dragon Shy's probably is the most disgusting when you get hit by it, because that's a 3-second stun. The other things might be
GG.
different, but unfortunately, even that will not help our Exterminators.
No, that's
Yes,
that was a really, really, really interesting game here. I'm super happy to have seen this. HandsUp come out on top in the end. We saw one Bloodlust this game. We saw realistically one Gust, and it was to counter the Bloodlust. Like, the amount of actual team fighting that happened this game, it was like that fight, which I think is super impressive coming from these teams. So, yeah, hands up, come out on top
that's a
here.
very interesting thing to note, because Dragonshy is known for being very brawly, is known for shit happening all over the map. Sorry for the bad word, by the way. We do, however, find out when we look closer that those are not team fights. We do not see a big team fight almost ever on this map, except for those one team fight in the end that does secure the final dragons, that does secure the core. We usually see a single target pickups. We see the 2v2 brawls. We do see teams trying to catch each other out on the rotation, and that's the beautiful thing about this map. You are essentially trying to outplay your opponent without trying to outplay them in the fight. A lot of brain load required for this map, and I think Alex Terminators definitely was the right choice to bunch up and wait for that level 20 safely.
Yeah,
But a
absolutely.
very amazing punish coming out from HandsUp, just starving them out of options and putting the truly encore grip on the game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the front line in Irel and May, they Irel drew so much aggro from the other side, and Malta just cannot do the same. He needs to be more safe and like conservative with his hit points, because he has, I mean, realistically, like a third. He's yeah, he isn't as tanky as Irel, is what I'm trying to say. So he can't really do the same thing that Irel was able to do here, and it's just that's that's the ending team fight, and HandsUp come out on top with some really nice play. And like the way this game looks, I am super interested to see what they want to pick up for this next map, because this was it would have been it would have been all Exterminators map.
Alex Terminators did take Dragonshy, they have
Yeah.
lost Dragonshy, and now DK has shown up taking the first pick for map number 2. So HandsUp, they like playing Infernal Shrines, they like playing Towers of Doom, and they have Dragonshy picked up against them 4 times, which is why Dragonshy was our first map, is my
Yeah.
thought on it.
Yeah,
But
that sounds
yeah,
right.
I think they will just go for comfort. Infernal Shrines were banned, but Towers of Doom are still open, and we might see another TOD map, which I like casting TOD. It is a map that does allow people to learn basic math. There are 2 maps in the games that do that: Tower of Doom and Tomb the Spider Queen.
Yeah.
And it's always and even if it is a stomp, which we have seen in game number 1 today, there is still a hope spot. There is still a moment. You can't lose this map unless you do something badly, unless you freak up. There is not a lot of cheese possible on House of Doom.
No, absolutely not. You just have to play it well. You play into the late game, you can usually get something with good scaling. Um, well, so far the teams haven't chosen any maps. They seem to be very sweaty. There's comments about, oh, we need to go splash our face. So, people are cooling off from this very intense game. And I was tense casting it, and I'm sure the players was feeling the same. Um, it was a very back and forth game, really low kill count, and I can show you the damage numbers. The highest damage dealer for HandsUp, which won this game, was Falstad at 34,000 damage. That is not very much damage. Um, a tank can usually get higher than that in your average game. Malthael was the top damage dealer on the other side with
Mhm.
46, but he gets to kind of trade onto Yrel a lot. So there wasn't a lot of damage dealt this game. And I think it's telling of how this game looked as well. It was a lot of 2-on-2s and 1-on-1s, as you say, and just back and forth. Super fun to
And it's
watch.
actually not gonna be the Towers of Doom. Castor's Curse strikes once again as a map is chosen differently. Volskaya Foundry is gonna be our map for game number 2. I think that does signify that Hands Up recognize that they can win the fights, that they are able to win the fights against all Exterminators, and just deciding to pick the most brawly, the most big team fight map in the rotation.
Yeah, it's if you want to team fight someone, you either take Volskaya Foundry or Infernal Shrines, and if you can't do that, you probably go to Battlefield of Eternity. That's kind of the tier list in my mind at least. So we have Volskaya. You want to have good point team fighting basically. If you have a setup support, um, Deckard was heavily prioritized in the previous series. I'm not sure if that's the case here, but anything that's good on team fighting points, like yeah, like a Maiev maybe, like Deckard, I don't know, like a Keltas maybe. Anything with a big AoE presence is gonna be really good.
And yes, the lobby is gonna fill up slightly. We also know that there is a little bit of snowball involved with Volskaya Foundry, which is usually not that much apparent on other maps because your uh, the Division 7 way of handling the first robot is just you go up top, you take the well down there, you snowball for the next objective, you snowball from there to the next objective. And at 20 minutes, you just take the objective and win the game, which is a thing that doesn't usually happen on Infernal Shrines, which is a thing that sometimes happens on Battlefield of Eternity, but Battlefield of Eternity is usually decided by who has better race and not better fights.
Mm-hmm.
So I like the idea from Hands Up, just we are gonna brawl, we are gonna fight you, we are gonna win the fights against you, and we are gonna snowball our lead ahead.
Yeah, yeah. Like if you want to team fight them, I think this is a good choice. You also have some macro choices, like being able to pick up the uh, all the support camps, like the support camp in particular, as well as your own gunner
Mhm.
camp, like the turret. If you have more of those than your opponent, that's a lot of stats, like a lot of stats you have to fight through on the opposing side. So
That is also a good point because there, the Volskaya Foundry is probably uh, the only map in the rotation where a camp and the amount of camps that you have taken can directly influence how the team fight goes. Because usually the camps go down the lane and they do require some attention to clear, but they usually don't influence the team fight itself that much. You do have some options like on Battlefield of Eternity, if you fight for too long, the enemy waves will push in. But on Volskaya Foundry, the pickups are a very important part of team fighting, and if you have enough turrets, you can win the fight without even firing your abilities, without even your ultimates.
yeah,
So that is also a very important thing to balance there on this map.
yeah, absolutely. So to pause some of the analysis, we can just give you some info on what's coming up. Um, we have Team Super Culax versus Semi Crustulance. Crustaceans, croissants, but there's a double L in there, which makes me really confused.
Youngs, I think is how
Crustaceans.
it's pronounced, but my French is while better than my German is still not that great.
Yeah. In any case, we have a game between the two of them on channel 1, casted by Samu and Aviator. Coming up after this, on this channel, we're gonna be done. But the matchup should be between Encore and the winner of Johnny Sins, Butt Buddies and Jane and the Frost Mage, I believe.
Which will be Johnny Sins Bad Buddies as
Yeah.
they have taken a 2-0 victory over their opponents. So two teams which have stomped over their opponents in the quarterfinals will duke it out in the first semi-final. This is gonna be broadcasted on the first launch channel as once again we will be done after this game, but it will still be a good match, and that will be a very interesting cup to follow through to the end.
Yeah, like what I've seen so far, I've been very impressed, and I'm kind of scared to know that these teams are in my division. It's kind of a yikes. Kind of don't want to deal with this. We got wrecked by Encore, for example. We didn't play either of the other teams, but yeah, they're showing some really good play. We also have a draft going on right now, so maybe I'll talk about that instead of what
The
I
teams
was going to
are
talk about.
both ready. We do see the full Sky Foundry. Draft is gonna start right about now. A map where I actually have a home. It's outside of the map, but it is there in the background. You can see it.
Yeah.
Junkrat is picked up as our first ban. Nothing strange, nothing different from the first game so far, because apparently, hands up, great on the Junkrat.
Yeah, and Junkrat can be a really annoying hero to have to play into. Like the displacement and the CC he has available on the battlefield is quite strong. He has pretty good, not point control necessarily, but like area zone control can be really tough to deal with into him.
And Sylvanas as the answer. Split push, usually not how you play Volskaya Foundry, but every little bit helps. And with Sylvanas, if you get a cheeky fight, you can snowball that fight into an objective, into a structure, w- regardless of what else is happening on the map, just because of the strength of Black Arrows as a passive.
Hmm.
Johanna taken out on the left, Cassia taken out on the right. Hands up do recognize that their opponents have the first pick and not willing to play against the Cassia still.
Yeah, it's a really good hero right now. I'm curious what they're gonna go for first here. The Anduin is their most played hero, but I don't think he's a first pick worthy necessarily. And then there's gonna be a Deckard coming out from them here. Really good sustain healing, as we've mentioned previously today, and he is quite good on the points. I would say if you get to set up first, and you have the extra potions out there, it's gonna be very helpful for your team. And then on the other side, we have Ana together with Tassadar.
You got a nano boost at Esther and he's gonna provide a lot of damage. Or you can pick up another mage, which also does work. Vala Imperius chosen on the left. Imperius, once again, a very big engage, can be played both as a tank and as an offlaner, although I think the tank variation is a little bit more suited for lower divisions of play. But still very important, and as it does clue us into how all exterminators want to play that game. Deckard, Ruby potions, you need to pick up them. You need to pick them up. Imperius going in. Vala likes to go in as well and be very, very aggressive there. All
Mm-hmm.
exterminators going for the dive. Let's see what the response will be. Gersh bent out, which is perfectly fair, and Malthael actually taken away
Okay.
by Team in Blue. So quite interesting to see what will uh, be the options from hands up. Will they decide to just play a little bit peely, play a little bit safe, or will they try to just dive back and
Mm-hmm.
try for some counter engages, which admittedly I think that Deckard can do a very nice job of stopping with the stay while I'm listening.
Yeah, it's a really powerful heroic to say no. I don't want to do this right now. Same with the Mighty Ghost from Falstad. It's gonna be a variant together with Li Ming. That's a very like it's a very pointed question here. Can you deal with this? It's gonna be variant taunt, it's gonna be Imperious follow up, and then you have Li Ming Vala behind. Can you deal with this? What are you gonna do about this?
And the
So
beauty of the composition of all exterminators is once again, you don't need to be the one engaging. You just have to, you can wait for the other team to engage, to which we can respond with an Imperious engage with a variant taunt. Hands up, banning one of the taunts, but the other one is picked up. Diva is being our last pick, which is interesting. I don't know too much about how Diva is played in
So
higher divisions.
I saw
So
their stats, and they had a diva picked 7 times for hands up, and with a pretty good win rate. Um, that's kind of all I saw though. So um, I assume this is gonna be a main tank diva because there's no way you can have a Sonya main tank. That just doesn't
mhm.
work. So
I think the way it works is on Volskaya, you need to sit in a very well, you need to sit in an area, and while that area is bigger than, for example, shrines on uh, Dragonshire, it is still quite small, and it can still be covered by Diva's mech exploding quite nicely. So
yeah.
I think the main point there is just to zone out your opponents, and it can also interrupt a lot of different things. It can stop the spear. It can, I think, it can also stop the Deckard from casting the Stay a While and Listen. It
Hmm.
can just be very annoying, provide a lot of interrupts, and with the Sonya being in the backline of your opponents as well, that's gonna be a lot of things for the backline to keep thinking about in the fight.
Yeah, so here we have them. It's gonna be Alex Exterminators in the blue on the left, Deadly Kitting playing the Varian, Jigoku on Imperius, Philip playing Ana, Chandrai on Li Ming, and No Scope Ninja playing the Vala.
And on the right, Novariel playing as a Dexter Mithzar on Sonya, Squeaky on the Diva, Caesar W on Anna, and blah 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 picking up the Rainer.
Yeah, we kind of glossed over Rainer in this draft. It's just a good auto attack damage dealer, and I think he's gonna be able to do just fine here. Sonya and Imperius kind of looking at each other there menacingly, both with the wrestling skin, I might add, which is kind of funny to me.
To be honest, it's kind of hard to say a lot about the Rainer because he's just that quite easy to understand how it works, quite serviceable damage dealer that can provide a lot of damage, that can go brrrr, but is not exactly the hero that you can talk about a lot because he's just so basic, I guess.
Mhm. Yeah, so far it seems that HandsUp are just quicker on all of these rotations, and they must have
And
noticed
the
that they weren't
ball
going to be
from
there.
Bavaria actually quite cheeky, but I think it's coming out a little bit too early. Will
Yeah,
there
they're
be
going to get
another
flanked
ball?
here.
No, there will not. And Deadly Kitten will actually have the point, and the healing pickup still picked up by DK there. Squeaky not looking too great. The kill comes out on the Diva, and that's why you don't play with fire.
Yeah,
Apparently.
the initial reaction to go for this, because you saw people go to the the turret camp, is good, but when you then see the Imperials leaving, you have to bring your Sonya as well, I think. So
Mhm.
they were punished for this play, and it could have worked out, but they were missing a little bit of damage, and then Imperius just gets a 2 or 3 man queue, and there you go, like Vala and Liming gets to have a heyday afterwards. 2 gems so far for Deckard, and Diva is going to be on Rushdown as the level 1 talent. I'm going to be looking at this because I'm curious what they're going to pick, because I
And
have no
then
goddamn idea.
Li Ming going with a Power Hunter into Triumvirate. I don't think it's that prevalent in higher divisions, but or build question mark?
Triumvirate is kind of new standard from what I've been gleaning, because of the mana sustain you get and the cooldown reduction. You can just play Triumvirate and play a normal build afterwards. You don't need to be an orb build Ming to play Triumvirate.
Ooh, the sleep coming out from Caesar 86 right after Jigoku goes all in on Mithzar, providing a very nice disengage for his offlaner and getting the offlaner to go with a foreman on an adventure. They will be able to do some push in those lanes. They will be able to find some distractions for the enemy team in terms of macro play
Yeah,
for the first attack.
yeah, absolutely. So for the moment, hands up. It's gonna be starting this timer now. Vala's dealing with the camp in the top lane, which both teams picked up basically at the same time. Sonya Imperius in bottom there, and the foreman of Alex Exterminators are really looking for this level 7, it seems. They don't really want to fight about this before they get it, so they're gonna focus their efforts on getting there.
I really like the idea of just taking the capture point quickly. Really like the ideas of plays that Hands Up have been doing so far, but sometimes the execution is a little bit lacking, and for the point, unfortunately, on Volskaya, the point takes a long time to cap. You can clear up the top lane from the camp, you can soak up some experience, get that quick level 7. You can even sometimes take the turret the second time around and then just fight with the second turret pickup.
Mhm. Yeah, but still, like, they had their 7s later, but they get a lot of timing onto this now. And now they're just gonna be here and fight. Diva has the bomb available, gets a lot of healing from Ana still. There's 2 turrets to 1, so the healing item's gonna be a big deal here. Squeaky holding the front line, trying to be there in the way. Tanks a big orb here from the Ming.
Number 8 reset, the other orb from Ashen Dry, as the damage is starting to get into the players of Hands Up. The poke definitely coming through for the leaning, and the timer is now on 90%, which does force a play. Squeaky going in with a bomb, and look how far the leaning is. The taunt, however, coming out as a response, and the follow-up is there. The Q from the Imperius, the W from the leaning, and that's going to be the kill that wins the fight. The pickups also both pressed, but that's going to be a first robot, and you really want to take the
Yeah,
trigger.
absolutely. The patience there from the Varian, I'm just gonna wait until you have to mech, and then I'm gonna taunt you. There's no like early heroic there to pick her off. So first blood goes to Exterminators after 5 minutes on this map, and like you said, the poke from Li Ming there was just dealing too much damage, honestly, and Ana was unable to heal it up over time there on the middle point. And the Protector here has killed off the top wall as well as the well, so the snowball you mentioned there in the draft stages is slowly rolling perhaps now for the Exterminators.
And you know, that's probably the things that you're gonna want most as all exterminators. You have just lost a game number 1, which was very close, but in the end, which slipped away out of from you. So the best thing you will want for game number 2 is just a quick early snowball, something very great, a good position to play from in the late game. Level 9, half a level advantage before level 10, and Deadly Kitten is gone for the support camp.
Ooh, yeah, good play here. They know they have 10 at any moment. They're gonna use it to secure this. I don't know if they saw the Tassadar Ana leave into their turret camp either, but very free pickup here, it seems, for the Exterminators. So they're doing quite well on the second game. And so far, at least, without any heroics, they have this Diva under control, it seems.
Speaking of the heroics, we have a Wave of Force, a Rain of Vengeance, a Stay a While and Listen Angelic Armament, and a parry upgrade on the side of Taunt. Gone for the parry upgrade instead of Warbringer, as the variant showed in game number 1, I
Gonna go
believe.
for Sonya in bot lane here. Maybe she gets out. Yeah, taunt under the turrets. Not quite able to follow there.
And on the right, we do have the Banshee, we do see the Nano Boost, the Wrath of the Berserker Archon, and most interestingly for me, the Bunny Hope chosen by the Diva.
Oh, no Scope Ninja getting run down here by Tassadar, but it's a taunt to counter engage.
Faster, but nothing else coming out. The Archon will be popped. However, that's a cooldown to make note of, and Taunt is actually quite serviceable as a way to bait out cooldowns as well, because only 20 seconds, I believe, 16 even. So you
Yeah, it's
just
quite low.
hold the target, you bait out a response, and then they don't have a response for another 60 seconds after your taunt is back up. So just find those abilities, bait out those abilities, and continue leaving your enemy without resources.
Yeah, it's one of the reasons Varian was so good in pro play, because there was realistically no counterplay to it. If you cleansed the first one, then you didn't have anything for the next. So it forced some very awkward drafting around him. And yeah, it's being used quite well, I would say, by Exterminators. Hands up with this Diva pick, and you know, wanting to fight on these points, using that area control that she can offer. Didn't quite work out there on the level 4, 5, 6 fight, but maybe now for next time it can be better.
I think now that I'm slowly starting to figure out why the bunny hop was chosen instead of the laser on level 10 is because you are not going to survive after you get out of the mech. You're not going to survive for long to get value out of your ultimate, because you're just gonna get taunted if you die in a team fight. And the bunny hop is actually a very nice way to engage for the team on the right, which is a big thing that they are lacking for themselves at the moment. I think Champ could have been another way to engage as well, but Wrath of the Berserker is just such a good utility ultimate for the Sonya.
Yeah, it's just so much damage, honestly. It's pretty damn good. Oh, invade attempt here as well. They know this is coming. Diva has to maybe use the bomb here. There's gonna be a fight there right now.
Oko going in could find a very big Q, but will get slapped for the time being. The mech blows up and the Imperius is gonna be down because he receives a lot of damage from that mech explosion. The turret still not taken by either of the sides. Stay well and listen. Hit on 3 and the orb beam blows up. We do have the kills. However, it's not actually an orb beam. It's a calamity beam. I'm just popping off because Triumvirate was picked and I like I like pretending that orb build is not absolutely bad. Anyway, the B point has been active for about a minute and a half as of now, Caesar 87. Gonna scout out the uh, territories around it, but will not decide to cap the point, and no one is Russian B, which makes my Russian heart very sad.
Unlucky. Yeah, this Diva so far has sadly not really paid off, I think. The mech died quite quickly. Well, she used it to try to blow them off the point, but then the pilot just kind of exploded, which is not a good sign. They pick up another healing camp here, so all Exterminators looking very strong here for this next fight in top.
I think if you are trying to just zone opponents out and don't necessarily care with the mech explosion hitting them, please don't laugh at me. A nuclear option could have been actually a talent that's viable because it does provide an extra second of the zone time for which the enemy should not enter the circle because you know that it will blow up. It does ensure that no one will get damaged by the mech explosion, but it does make the mech explosion a little bit better as a zoning tool, in my opinion.
Yeah, perhaps. I don't know enough to comment there. I am a bit surprised though that all Exterminators are so willing to just give up this amount of percentage on the point to get level 16. It did not seem like they were close enough to make that play.
They don't even get the level 16 as they enter the point. 76 is where the timer will stop for hands up, both siege camps taken around the map. And all Exterminators is actually quite content with what they're given. I think that they are perfectly able to just stall because this point is a little bit hard to fight because it is a little bit tricky in where your positioning must be.
Yeah,
So
it
while
is.
disengagement of aerial will fail, they still have the turrets, they still have the healing camp to help them as well. So you have a lot of pickups, and with a lot of pickups you can just win the fight on them based on themselves. The taunt coming out on Squeaky will see the mech blowing up, which does put the Diva on a kind of long cooldown, which is even more increased by the fact that no laser was picked.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's gonna be tough to get that back, but she is here now, kind of slowly waiting it out. They're gonna get their 16s, and we can see a hint of what they wanted to do with this Diva though. They went for the Tassadar, and with a combination of the defensive matrix as well as the knockback, they were actually able to get him out, but also spent an Archon, so you know that's a big cooldown as well. But you can kind of see what they're trying to do here. Imperius now alone in this whole team, very surprising.
Ooh, Bunny Hop coming out to try and kill Jigoku. We do have the healing team pressed already. The triangle hitting on a lot of people. The sleep will be there on the Squeaky, but the mech blows up and Squeaky will get the charge needed to go back into the mech. And I like the play from hands up, even if they are on the back side while Tesla, while Diva were being pressured by the variant. Sonya and Raynor just went bot, just took down that fort. We do see that Sonya is pushing mid right now, and all Exterminators forcing that 5-man fight. Unfortunately, not gonna get given to them quite yet. The mech is blown up away from Squeaky once again, and all Exterminators should probably go and take this fort to just go equal on the map.
Yeah, it leaves very little safety for HandsUp there in bottom lane for the third spawning point. On these lovely conveyor belts, which, you know, that sarcastic tone probably tells you everything you need, what my feelings are about that. Diva doesn't have the mech right now, so there's no way they can fight this.
I adore the conveyor belts. They provide such an interesting dynamic in those teamfights because the way you move in those is a lot more different, and it allows you to get so many more opportunities to dance and to guess where your opponents will be. I like the mind game skills that result from bringing more
Very
parallels.
aggressive play here from the Diva and HandsUp. They're looking for the Liming perhaps, trying to get something. Sonya behind this sleep here
Ooh, the
goes very low
shots
and
coming up,
blinds up
the zone is
instantly.
blown up. The mech, however, will zone out half of the team as HandsUp are trying to get this turret down, trying to maybe bait out some turrets from their opponents in return, but Tester is already blown up. Squeaky will lose the mech as well, and the Diva proper will die probably. I don't know, will she? I think
Sleep
she
was
will.
really important there.
The impact there, however, will be there from Caesar. And HandsUp only lose two, which still bad.
Yeah, the speed at which Sonya evaporated there was really scary to me. That shows that your team has really good focus targeting there. Yeah, they keep like they needed to do some. I suppose they felt pressured to do something here, but they're not very good at engaging, which you mentioned earlier in the cast. So they just kind of have to walk at them with Diva and then hope that you can make something happen. But as you said on the other end, you can just wait and taunt whatever comes your way. Oh, Ashandra in an awkward rotation there. Bunny Hop.
Engaged with Bunny
It's a lot of
Hops
people
there,
here.
but I don't think it will provide a lot of things, especially considering that your follow-up is the Rainer, who's not exactly the quickest hero to get there with the Diva. The healing camp is gonna get taken by all Exterminators. That's gonna be a fifth pickup on the team. The blow-up will hit a lot of people. The mech will be back up with full HP, but Sony is already blown up. Jigoku will be the trade. The mech is taken down once again. Caesar 86 falling low, but not falling down. Ashen Dry trying to get the kill, but dying in the end. And that's probably the comeback fight that HandsUp needed. You keep fighting, and eventually they sleep up, they lose the fight. And you get back in. However, the turret's taking down the testers there. Caesar 86 will fall quite low as well, but that's still a 2-for-4. That's still a very good fight for HandsUp.
Yeah, absolutely. They almost get themselves to level 20 here. That looked really bad in the early side for HandsUp, but the Diva, like, rebuying again instantly in the fight is essentially what's happening there. Turned out to be very, very powerful, and they're actually able to turn this fight in their favor in the end with a 4-for-2 trade. And they're not going to be able to get level 20, they're going to fight for this bottom point. I would not have said that like 3 minutes ago into this game.
And once again, throughout the entire game, I can understand the reasoning behind almost all of the plays that HandsUp are doing. They might be failing the execution miserably. This engage on the turret was pretty much an option to try and bait out some turrets from our exterminators, because they have 3 turrets on them. Might as well put them down, might as well secure the fight, which does mean that you're weaker for the future fights, which is the thing that HandsUp wanted. Unfortunately, it goes badly. The sleep will be pretty much perfect, zoning one person out to blow up while everyone else is asleep. But you do continue fighting, you do get the fight on the support camp, you do get them to press down their turrets, you do get them to even lose the fight, with which you snowball, with which you get the robot, and with which you can try and get the keep, which, if you have a keep down on your opponent's side, you have a way back into the game, even if you are way down on the map.
Yeah. Putting both their frontliners are into this mech seems a bit scary to me, but there's going to be now an Infinite Archon on this keep. They might be wanting to ride this to victory here. And Navariel in the front line with blah 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 on Jimmy. And the mech there in the middle, Ana behind. Taking significant amount of damage here, but the Archon is staying strong, dealing damage. Nice knockback here. Will it be enough? Tazadar instantly blows up though. Jigoku looking for more as he's going in here onto the mech. Frontline unable to help anything. Jimmy takes so much damage, gets nano boosted though. Some healing available for him. Turret from Varian is not enough. Sonya now in this team as well gets taunted. Follow coming in, and Bunny Hop. Hardened shield as well as the normal shield, I have to assume. Midsword falls anyway. Ana unable to keep him alive. And well defended here for our Exterminators.
I'm quite sad that the robot did not put more attention into just getting the keep down, because once again, we are reaching that point where the robot can just go into the core and just win just based on the robot. But so far, not exactly gonna be an option. However, I don't think that HandsUp lost as hard as they seem to lose. They do lose to people, they do lose with the robot, but now the situation in terms of pickups is pretty much equal, and
Mm.
those turrets can change the tides of the fight rather quickly, even if I do overestimate them a little bit.
Better to overestimate than under, because if you underestimate them, your opponents are going to have all of them, which is not a good sign.
Definitely. Another zoning mech explosion from Squeaky will be the end of this push. The well even survives, even though the well's not feeling that great. The well's definitely not well, but is alive, is working. We do have a quick healing camp pickup from Deadly Kitten as all exterminators are working their way to get that lead started once again.
Yeah, so one turret each and healing camp once again for all exterminators. Map is pushing against HandsUp here, who have had better team fighting for sure. The D.Va is getting some amount of value now. It's easier to see what they wanted to do with it. Mitsu are in trouble here in bot lane. Anna's gonna try to get him out. Oh, they're not trying for it. Oh, that's a repulsion though.
Trying to the slow and the engage is there, but the Sonya might be a little bit too far already. The Bunny Hawk will stop D.Va from being asleep, but that will make her an easy target as the mech is blown up. The taunt comes out and the D.Va proper is killed. However, no scope Ninja will have no HP and will die. Jigoku not having any HP at all, and that's the second kill for HandsUp. Blah blah blah, staying alive despite all of the damage put in by Deadly Kitten. Zavarian not exactly scaling into damage, not exactly having a lot of it. Ashen Dry trying to find an extra orb, trying to find some globes to regen off, but will just die to the minion wave. Decker Kane dying to the Archon in the meantime, and Deadly Kitten will go back, will find them back to the base, but there's a 4-man pushing on your keep.
Yeah, really impressive fight here for HandsUp. Coming in clutch here. The Sonya save, repulsion. I actually thought she was safe, but the repulsion play gets her out. And that starts this whole shebang coming in now with HandsUp going for the core.
And they are trying to end the game. Is this clownable, as Aviator likes to say? Well, every game is clownable, but is this particular one gonna be clowned by Johnny Sins Bad Bodies? By HandsUp. The teams have similar branding. It is a bit easy to mix them up.
Core is falling, Rainer goes down, but it's not gonna be enough. GG!
But that's going to be the last kill of the game, unfortunately, for all exterminators who go down 0-2, I believe.
That they do. GG, and HandsUp go forward in this series after a shaky early start for them, but this D.Va actually proves too difficult to deal with, it seems. She died basically every fight, but they had to use a lot of stuff to make it happen. And then yeah, they were able to snowball it around. The Tassadar just evaporating most hit points in that last team fight. It was kind of scary to watch, and then Jimmy just dealing damage into anything he can.
And if you sort by deaths, you see that Tassadar 4 deaths, Sonya 4 deaths, D.Va has 5, but Johnny Sins, but HandsUp. I keep mixing them up. I should stop. HandsUp, finding their opportunities, playing smart and finding those engages. If you continue fighting when you are behind, sure you will be losing fights, but all exterminators not exactly getting anything out of their wins. And when HandsUp got their fights, they made them matter. They got the robot, they got to the keep, they got another fight, they won the game.
Yeah.
Very impressive stuff.
It is really impressive stuff. All exterminators had a really solid early game. They had an item advantage, but at some point, which I believe was it was the fight over the healing camp on top. They lose that fight eventually, which is a really close one, I would say. But also, it's the first time D.Va gets real value, I think. And then from that, HandsUp are able to just get the bottom point. They no contestation, no nothing. They push it in the whole way. They open up a win condition for themselves, and then there's the final fight on bot lane where the game is realistically even, and then it's just the pick-off attempt ends up turning on them for the case of all Exterminators, where HandsUp then are able to win the fight and go for the win. So it's a super close matchup.
All
This is not.
Exterminators doing very greatly in both games, finding some nice stuff, finding some nice fights, but the main difference there is that HandsUp knew how to make their fight wins matter, and that is a very important skill, and that is a skill that will matter even more later on when the team's kills will get progressively higher and higher, because this is the play of the day. The teams are gonna get a little bit more tired. They are definitely gonna be trying to play more from themselves than more against opponents, because the time to prepare for the other team is reduced a lot. But I think that HandsUp have a very solid idea of what they are trying to do, and what they will get from one thing, what will they get from the other thing. And so far, pretty damn surprised by both of the teams today that get to the
Yeah.
semifinals.
I agree. I was gonna say the score here, 2-0 for HandsUp, is not like it doesn't show how close these games are. Absolutely not. All Exterminators has played a very good game, but unfortunately they will fall out of the playoffs here. So there's gonna be 2 more best of 3s, which then has to be it's gonna be Encore versus Johnny Sins Butt Buddies, and then it should be HandsUp versus the winner of Team Super Kulaks and Semi Croustillants. So
Which Super Kulaks at the time of this message have won the game number 1, but Semi-Christians have a little bit of a better position at the moment on map number 2, which is Stones the Spider Queen.
alright, so with that in mind then, we will soon send you over there on the main channel. I hope we can get some raid going. I don't know who has the power to do that, but hopefully someone can make that happen. I hope we have some help there in Twitch. But yeah, Josh, thank you very much for joining me. It's been a pleasure for these 2 games.
I mean, no problem. It's always fun to cast with you. It's always fun to cast the higher divisions for me, because I usually focus on the Rare Cup, which, while does allow me to be a lot very knowledgeable about what the Rare Cup divisions do and what the teams there do, I unfortunately do not have a lot of perspective on higher divisions, and seeing them play is always a little bit eye-opening, because I'm so used to how things work down there.
Yeah, I can see that, certainly. Yeah, so as a final mention, I want to say this once more time. It's going to be on August 8th. We have a charity event supporting the Black Lives Matters movement as well as the Pride movement. That will be hosted by Fictional and Skylore. You can find them on the Discord. You can find more info on the Discord in the announcements, as well as a write-up on the Heroes Launch website. So, with that said, thank you all for watching. I hope you had a great time. These were some really cool series. This one is in particular, it lived up to the hype, I would say. So thank you all.
Have fun, guys. It is mandatory after all.
Have a good Sunday. Bye bye.